so I will start the meeting. I'm going to share my screen first.
Announce what the meeting is, though, that it's the
Okay.
town administrator search. There
This
we
is
go.
the meeting for the town administrator search. It's Monday, March 7th, and it's a little after 7 o'clock, 7:02. And I will call the meeting to order. The agenda is called to order, review consultant list and overviews, the availability of the consultants, pricing, experience, current assignments if available. Third item would be reviewing existing town administrator job descriptions. And the fourth is items not anticipated by chair.
So normally, if we have items not anticipated, we would add them now. If anyone has anything that wasn't anticipated 48 hours in advance.
Okay.
Does anyone have anything they want to?
The
The
only,
only
ahead.
thing is I want to, before we're through today, at least reference the DOR report that was done for the town back in 2012.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think that was included in what Jackie sent us, I believe, wasn't it?
Well, maybe it is. I mean, I know we've had it.
Last week.
Last week.
We have it.
Last week we
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, that's right. So I understand we got it. I just wanted to talk a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, last week.
Okay, so with that amendment, I would move that we approve the agenda as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You need to
Roll call.
call out.
We
you
need a
to call
roll
out the
call.
names.
Okay.
Roll call the names. Yeah.
Okay. George,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Vicky.
That's
Aye.
you.
That's me. Thank you very much. I have the phones going off. All right, Courtney.
Aye.
Bill. Aye. Okay, ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, one of the things that I wanted to do first is to review a little bit of the consultant information. And this meeting tonight is going to be just to go over information, and we're not going to be making any decisions or anything tonight. Basically giving everybody information to be able to use for next week so that we can go over this more specifically and hopefully make some decisions. Mary Wolf and I worked last week on doing some homework about some consulting firms, and one of the right now it's not MMA that she called, it's MRI, and that's my fault because I always get them mixed up. And I'll let Mary tell you what her conversation was with Alan Gould. Mary, do you have a minute to tell us?
Sure. So Alan Gould, I spoke with him. He's a principal there, and he has a couple of people that he would recommend to us. He gave me their names. I don't know if I included their names in what I sent you or not, but I have them. When I asked him about availability, he was a little hesitant, but then when I told him what we were looking for, he said that would be fine. He recommended they have something called an assistance package, where you provide the job description, you do a variety of things, and what they do, I want to pull this up on my own. Sorry, I'm having a little issue here. They would publish the job description in a variety of places, in Massachusetts and in neighboring states. And he also would include doing it in a sort of nationwide thing, not that we're having a nationwide search, but he said that one of the things they found is that there are a number of people who grow up in an area, live in an area, and then they move away for some reason or other, and then want to return to the home base. And he said sometimes people will see that and they will see it as an opportunity to move their family back to their roots. So he thought it was worthwhile, at least doing that through this organization that's similar to Mass Municipal, only it's sort of a nationwide thing. The process would be what is listed there. We'd provide them with a job description that would include the top of the salary range, because he said you want to bring people in by the top that you're going to might possibly offer. And then you say, but the real salary would be commensurate with your experience and so forth. The number of full-time employees and the size of the operating budget. Those are apparently things that people looking for these jobs are interested in knowing up front. They would place the ads. They would then contact people they were aware of who might be interested in making a move. And he said they also have a database of candidates that they have recommended to other towns. And although a specific other town didn't choose to hire that person, it's not necessarily that there was anything wrong with the person. It was just that somebody else seemed better for that town. And that, you know, the person who didn't get chosen for town A might be just fine for town B. So he says they do have a good database there. He says they would come in, he anticipates resumes would come in for about 30 days, which to me seemed reasonable. You know, it takes a while sometimes. And then they would send out some essay questions, which he said gives you a good to the candidates that they felt were worth pursuing at all. And he said that gives you an example of their writing skills and also some insight into, you know, how they approach things. And then they would do screening interviews by phone, and they would present us ultimately with a list of perhaps 7 to 8 candidates that we might want to pursue further. And they would work with us to give us a list of questions that, you know, we might want to use in screening these people ourselves. And then they would not do background checks up front. They would do a complete background check on whoever we made an offer to. So the offer would be contingent on passing a background check. And, you know, that saves some money, and, you know, that's their approach to it. Let's see, they place about 20 TAs or town managers a year, and their website is there if you want to go and see. There's no need for me to, you know, tell you all the towns. And that's their approach. He said, man, maybe less than $5,000 to do it.
Did he say anything about checking references?
Yes. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was the background check that,
Okay.
yeah, I can ask him that.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that separately so that we got a background, references on more than just the final offer, but the background check
In
on
the
the,
Right.
beginning.
yeah.
Paul Durenzis joined the meeting. Just want to note. Hi, Paul.
As did Eric.
He was here.
Is Eric drop back off again? I let him in.
He's
Paul?
on.
Yeah,
He is on? Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing with that I had less success with was getting in touch with with the Collins Institute. I left 3 different messages there and they never got back to me. So that disinclines me toward them, but perhaps the fault was mine. I don't know.
Well, I have to say, I tried, Bernie and I from Community Paradigm Associates, when I called him, he called me right back, but we played phone tag for a day and a half. And he just kept calling me back. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Collins
I wasn't impressed with the way
That's
Collins.
excellent information that you got, Mary. Thank you for that. That's excellent. And once again, we're going to go through all this for you to have as information, and no decisions are going to be made until, we all get together another time. But if you do have questions that you want to throw out now, um, you know, feel free to do that. I talked to Bernie from Community Paradigm Associates. They are by far, from all of the research I've done, the one that is working with mostly everybody. Um, he was very nice. He initially said they were too busy and he couldn't do anything. And I said, well, maybe, do you think you could work with us if it wasn't right now? Because from my estimation, we're not going to be ready for a consultant until probably the first week in April. And he said I could do it then. And I said, he said, but I don't know how much time we'd be able to put into it. I said, well, we're really looking for someone to help us with looking at the candidates, doing some reference checking, some background checking to add to, well, this is what he said. He's very busy, but he can work with us first part of April. He said that they could do the following: spread the word and inform candidates they know, review resumes, do background and reference checks of semifinalists. And he said the cost would be around 7,000, maybe. He said, I don't want to be held to it, but it could be less, it could be a little bit more, depending on what you want us to do. But because I wasn't asking him to fill out, a scope of work, that was fair for him to do it. But I also listed all the towns that he has done, the company has done a TA search for. So, and I've talked to a couple of other people, one being our accountant, our consultant that did our police chief search, and he had very high praise for Bernie and his group and said they know everybody. And to be honest with you, I've spent all week looking through the internet. I mean, it doesn't take much to find out what's going on out there, but there's a lot of towns that are looking for town administrators right now. And I think, and I had said that to Bernie, and I said, does that hurt us with the pool? And he goes, it's getting tight. So I think whoever has the deepest reach might be the best person for us to work with, because it is going to be difficult, I think, to get people. There's at least 6 or 7 towns that are at least active now, and that in the past year, there's been, from what I saw, at least 15 out there that have closed searches and hired people. So, that's taken a lot of candidates out of the pool for us.
Though, Wayne told us at the start, now we had Wayne who was quite strong, but there were 44 people looking for police chiefs when we were.
Yeah,
44 towns, not people, 44 towns were looking for police chiefs when we were in somewhere in Massachusetts.
so we
Partly
ended
because
up,
of
yeah,
partly because of police reform. Everyone was there's an external force where some people are just retiring because they didn't want to have to
right.
spend 3 to 4 years getting up to speed on police reform if they were close to retirement already. But there was
I-
So
44.
I think it does have, sorry, go ahead. Who was
I just
talking?
want to just want to add to the discussion that I have
Oh,
a
hi, Paul.
personal relationship. Am I unmuted?
I got you. Oh, hi, Eric. Didn't know you were here either. Go
Uh,
ahead.
I have a personal relationship with Bernie Lynch, and have worked with him in the past, and have hired him for another town where he's assisting with a town administrator search. To the extent that he is saying that he's busy, I can get access to him and move us up the
Okay,
priority.
okay. That's great.
Okay, questions, I'm sorry. Paul, is that with Community Paradigm,
Yes,
Yes,
this person?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't know which to relate it to. And the other company is Mary M.
MRI,
MRI.
Municipal
MRI.
Municipal Resources, Inc.
And again, I'm sorry for questions tonight. And do I mention the names of the people you spoke with?
I don't think that's necessary.
No, I don't think you have to. These
Okay,
are
thank
pretty
you.
much the principles of the company.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem.
I would just add that Alan Gould also talked about the market being very tight right now.
So if I
Paul?
could have a comment about MRI,
Sure.
I just had a half-hour conversation with a HR director in another town, and she swears by MRI. She says they are absolutely fabulous. And I asked her what did she like about them, and she said they take the politics out of it. She said every time we look for a town administrator, we have all these people saying, "Hey, I've got a buddy. Would you do a courtesy interview for this and that?" And they pull all the politics out of it, and they look only at the merits and what is specified for the job and what they think is the best match. They don't get into this, and they'll let you know that, you know, a selectman has a buddy that he wants you to interview as a courtesy interview. They'll let you know, but they won't progress it because they'll stick to the straight and narrow. So that was a recommendation. Just wanted to pass it on to you.
That's great. That's a good recommendation. And from what I heard as well, they if comparing the two, community paradigm is a little bit more aggressive, but I don't know, what that really means. But that's what I was told. There are a few others that are out there that are single people or smaller firms. And I think, as we saw with the last proposal we had from the consultant, what was her name? Janice. Anyway, the one that works with the town now. The price range is about the same. So I think that when you look at this, I would give you take your time to take a look at these and do some homework. Let me just see on here. I have some other information here. So there's so much out there online. This is a proposal from Collins Center for Fairhaven, which is a bigger town than us, but just so that people, and I included this in the package so you can get a feeling for what consultants will do and the types of things that they present. So also, take a few minutes to take a look at that. And this is, again, about the same price range that we're looking at. So next week, if, when you go through this stuff, you can take a look at it. And, next week, what I'm going to leave you with is, again, this week, I'm going to leave you with a short list of things to do. And one of the things is to come up with 2 or 3, hopefully just 2 consultants that we can take a look at a little bit deeper and go forward and try to make a decision. So I will send out to you a list of everybody that we looked at, including the package that we got last week from that other consultant. And then you can come back on the 14th with a short list of 2 or 3, and then we can go from there.
Vicki,
Everybody, sorry, Paul, go ahead.
can I just say a word about the Collins
Sure.
group? They are the group that I actually hired for Sherborn. I was part of a board that hired them. They have done the town administrator search in Sherborn before. They produced, I believe, Dave Williams. I also hired them to do a study of the town, and they did a overall view of the town and the organization of the town. They were quite good in what they did. They have a lot of positive attributes. They have some negatives that we know personally because we use them and how to work closely with them on at least those 2 projects. We may have used them for more. I just don't remember. There's been so many town administrators over the years. But they are good. And one of the important things about the bigger firms is that they have the contacts and they have the knowledge to put together a good pool so that we would actually have some choices. So today I was talking to a town administrator and I asked him if he had any thoughts about the Collins Institute. And he said, yes, he had hired Collins for his town. And they had said to him, he ought to call MRI because they had a good town administrator opportunity. And he followed up their suggestion and he called MRI, and MRI put him in touch with a wonderful opportunity, which ended up him leaving his community and going to work for this other community. And yes, MRI was the firm hired by the town that he went with, but Collins is the one who had the contacts, knew what was out there, and it said to him, you ought to take a look at this, even though it was another firm and the other firm was getting paid to do it.
Interesting.
So I passed that on as a positive recommendation. He was very positive about Collins too.
Mary?
Yeah, I spoke rather negatively about Collins earlier. I don't know if Paul and Eric were on at that time, but it was because I have had trouble getting through to them. I tried several times and didn't get a call back. But I noticed when I read this description from Collins earlier today that one of the things that I was impressed with that they provided was that they do sort of a portrait of the town, not in the sense of what a lot of these job descriptions have, which is, you know, Sherborn is a town with 4,500 people and a budget of blah, blah, blah. But more, it seemed that they may have done something like they did with the Collins report, where they maybe go in, and I don't know how they do this, but they may go in and talk with people and sort of tell you what you are, even if you don't realize it. They sort of, it seems to me they provide a personality sketch of the town, and that might be useful, whether we would get it from them or whether it's something worth pursuing, no matter whom we
Oh,
would
let me
go with.
take that ball and run with it if I could. When we had Collins doing the TA search, they prepared a community profile for Sherborn.
Yes,
And we have that somewhere. And
yes, we do, and I've read it.
And as part of that discussion with them, they were very convincing that the hiring of a town administrator is almost like getting married. The town administrator is not just looking at what the Board of Selectmen is or what the town moderator is, but he also wants, or she wants to know what the community is. What is he getting involved in? What is he or she getting involved with? What are the nice things about Sherborn that would attract someone to invest their waking hours in bettering our community? Well, part of doing that, part of selling us. So it's not just a matter of them selling themselves, it's partly our selling them and the town administrator community out there, that this town of Sherborn is a special place, and therefore they should consider and come to work for us rather than some other town that they might have. And given that there's a lot of prospects out there, or a lot of towns out there who are looking for town administrators, the one thing that Collins adds, that best of all outfits, is that community profile. It's a little brochure. They sent it out everywhere. They armed me with a whole bunch of them. So I circulated them wherever I went. When I was in a town hall, I would give it to the town administrator. It's very handy, and it does present the community beautifully. It has pictures of the community, all kinds of nice things to it.
I think I've seen one that they had online. I'll have to look for it and send it to everybody, but I don't think that's a bad idea in terms of trying to sell us to, you know, the people that we're trying to get. That said, there's a couple of things that I'm going to send to everyone and all the select board. I put together a chart of traits and responsibilities that everybody would be looking for in that particular person. So it's other side of what we were just talking about, but I can get to that too. But so basically, you will get that and fill it out and it will say important, not important, or somewhat important. And basically it has a whole review of different types of traits and responsibility characteristics that a person in this particular job may have. And what I'm trying to do is get a feel for what's important to the select board and what's important to this committee, so that we can kind of digest it and put that into maybe some of our questions, or some of our interview questions, and also for some of maybe even the job description. But going back to what Paul was talking about, I mean, if we have some of that material already, I'm very good at doing I do a lot of this type of thing for other people. So, if we didn't want to pay that extra money, I would take on that extra time to do it. So I don't know how much more they would charge outside of the 5 or 7,000. The other point is how fast we want to get this thing rolling, and I don't know how much time that would take, but I think it's certainly something to think about. So when you're checking off the names of people, of the consultants, keep that in mind. And if that's something that you think is important for us to add in there or have somebody to do versus us doing it, please make a note of that so that we know.
Yeah, I
Vicky,
think that echoes my comments though, Vicky. I'm concerned with these large firms being busy, and the reason I liked Wayne was he was a boutique firm that was serving us. I'm not wild about these large firms, no matter how broad their experience is. I think we would rather have someone that we work with on a more intimate basis and is more, available than some of these large firms. So
Well, I think what we could do is, if we do pick a large firm, we could make sure that whoever is going to work on this with us would be dedicated and we'd be able to access them. So I'm sure they have many tiers. Mary, did you have your hand up first? Paul, is your hand so? Mary
yeah,
and Courtney. Okay, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I found the piece of the Collins report that I was referring to, and it was slightly different from what I think people understood me to be saying. Not that I don't agree that it's valuable to have the kind of thing that Paul was talking about, but it said, in implementing this approach, the center will carefully consider the challenges a town
Great.
administrator will face currently and in the next 3 to 7 years, and also review the recently used profile of the organization and the position with particular attention to identifying the town's priority issues. The profile will specify the professional and personal qualities needed to succeed in the position. And I thought that really struck me as something, valuable to have, for us to understand what challenges are out there that we're going to be asking this individual to help us get through successfully, and also to prioritize what our issues are, not just for the job, but for the town.
Right.
And those two things I think are really, would be very valuable, whether we get it from Collins or whether we get it from someone else. I think they're valuable things for us to have.
Yeah, I agree.
Vicky,
Courtney, I think Courtney was next.
okay.
Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, I share some of Jeff's concerns about, a big firm, especially a firm that's already telling us that they're too busy and they don't have a lot of time to give to us. I just think if somebody's already telling you they're too busy, I think you should believe what they're saying. And the other thing is, I don't know too much about the history with the Collins group, but if maybe people can tell me how that search went last time and whether they did match us with a good candidate. Because my understanding is not necessarily.
I wasn't here, so I don't know. I don't know anything about their relation, what they did. Paul, I'm obviously, you and Eric were here. Paul, your hand was up next.
Yes, I wanted to say two things. First, with regard to Jeff's comment, Wayne was not an individual guy. He was with Badge Quest, and he actually did numerous police chief searches. He was
Mm.
probably one of the biggest on the list of police search groups that I'm aware of. When I think of a police search, I think of his Badge Quest group. And I think that's true of most people who are active in the municipal world. So he is an institution of his own. The second point I would make is that there's another feature that these search firms provide. And I experienced that today when a search firm called me to interview me for an hour about a former town employee who was looking for a job. And the thoroughness of the questions, the depth of the questions. I'm a kind of person who always tries to say good things about people. So I would say good things and then be cross-examined, give examples of what I was saying and why did I say that. And it went on in impressive detail. The same kind of background check that we really want to have. It was amazingly thorough.
Paul, did you have, would you mind sharing the name of the firm? You don't have to.
Yeah, I don't want to give away
Okay,
somebody's.
that's fine. And to answer Courtney's question, did you have experience, and I'm sure Eric can speak to this as well, with Collins in our town picking or presenting us with candidates for a position?
Yes.
And did you feel comfortable with the process and the outcome?
Yes.
Okay. Courtney, did you have anything else that you needed? Did you want to know about Collins?
Was that to me?
No, Courtney.
No, I mean, if anybody else has anything
That's
they
good.
want.
Eric, did you have can you add anything to that about the Collins?
Well, there's two things I did want to speak up on. It's not exactly on Collins. I mean, Collins, I recommend you actually talk to people on the governance committee who actually did work with them hand in hand and provided the recommendation. I know Paul provided a recommendation based on the governance. I don't know, Paul, how much you're involved with the actual governance committee. And he's right that we actually hired I wasn't on the board at the time, but we hired him when we selected David Williams back, whatever it was, 10 years ago. Collins. But I do have some other points that I raised my hand on.
Okay, go ahead.
Just that I do disagree with one thing, and that is that we don't need someone until April 1. I think we could use someone at this meeting right here, right now. I think we could have someone help us with job description as well as a salary survey, even before we post anything. Those are some initial things that even help us even get advertised, even get an idea of what we want in it. And so I just want to, state that I think we could use a consultant really almost immediately. That sounded great there. And a second one, the larger firms, they do have a pool. There is kind of a known like network and pool of town administrators out there. And I'm not sure if they can, how much they know the performance, but I think maybe they're in tune with the industry. I don't know, like that. I do know, I think Paradigm Associates had just recommended David Williams for the interim town administrator for Wayland just 2 months ago. So that's a point of information that, they're part of that whole network and stuff like that. I still believe a small niche one would be better. That's still my opinion with this. I think it's more efficient. I think, they still, it's a small world out there. People know who's good, who's bad. It's the primary reason I'm on this committee, to be frank with you, because I'm in tune with that. In fact, if you want to see anything that Paradigm has done, you can almost look at any of the, all of you should actually go look at the MMA job search webpage, because that just simply has like countless of these. And you can see they have a very typical, kind of like town profile, blah, blah, blah. It goes on like that. And pretty much anyone looking for a town administrator job has seen these profiles 20 times, because it's just so known in the business. And it's so known what's out there that they all just kind of go toward the end and see, what the actual job description is and so on. Not to marginalize it, but it's just, it's the way the business is, because, there's basically, a handful of people out there. As I said before, I think MRI has a good reputation for the larger firms. And, if people want a large one, maybe a direction to go there. That's all.
So that said, what I'm hearing is there's some divide here between large and smaller firms, and there's also some divide of how much involvement. Um, so I think we need to make a decision on, we're going to be doing this without an RFP because otherwise an RFP is going to probably put us out there another 2 weeks, correct? At
More than
least
that. Much more than
more
that.
than that.
Our people much more than
So
that.
what I tried to do is put together enough information, and I'll send you a lot of links, and like Eric said, go online and look because everything's out there and you can get a real feel. I mean, I think they're all pretty much the same, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of who's going to have the reach and who's going to be able to get things for us. And then we're going to direct them to what we want. But that said, I guess if you can get a short list to me in the next few days, then maybe we can have somebody come to our meeting next week and just give us a little overview and maybe talk to us. Does that sound like an idea? Or, I mean, where do you want to go, Eric?
Well, you had the initial idea of people submit to you your top two. Everyone look at the background, do whatever.
Oh.
Submit to you the top two, and then we can just,
Yeah.
you can really just score it up based on that.
Okay.
You can
All
like
right.
number one gets so many points, number two gets so many points, and 0 for the rest.
Okay.
And then you just simply go like, boom, they scored the highest, they scored next, and then
All
so
right.
on.
Well, I
All
guess I'm confused though, Vicky, because MRI might be great if we get so-and-so partner, but not great if we get a junior level person. So it seems like we're not picking a firm, we're picking a search consultant.
But I don't think that we'd end up getting somebody. From everything I've read, Jeff, I don't think that they pull in junior people and let them lead towns. I think
Well,
they
that could
might
be
do
fine,
some of
but
the,
I would like to know, I think we're picking a person is all I'm saying. So if they could say these three, if you go with MRI, these 2 to 3 people would be the ones most likely to serve you.
okay,
I think we're
so
picking a
that's,
person, because they could be,
MRI did do that.
yeah,
They
did they
gave
do
me the
that?
names of the 2
Okay,
people.
all right,
so if that's the
that's good.
case, then I'll make sure that the next, what everybody has for their top 2 or 3, that we will get from those firms who they would
Mhm.
assign to us, and make sure that we know that they have some seniority in the firm. Is that what you wanted?
I think so, because I don't, we're not picking the firm. We'll probably deal with one person throughout, so we'd want
Okay.
to know who that person could be. And I
Okay.
would still include the firm, even though they didn't have as much experience that we listed last week, that Jen Thompson's firm. I would include them in consideration myself.
Okay, so
Now,
then when you give me your list, then put her on there.
I will.
Okay,
now I would have people put just the top two.
top
I really
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it just gets messy. If you want to score it like 2 points, 1 point, or something like that, or just do whatever.
Okay.
We just simply do top two and just do straight votes and we discuss it, type of thing like that. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right.
Whatever.
So are we
Because I
talking?
guarantee all 4 firms will be picked. I guarantee it's a matter of getting who votes. You know what I mean? I'm trying to say.
Right.
So it's not like they'll actually limit it to 2 firms, but we'll see, who consider the top 2. Once you start going to a third firm, it just gets fluffy.
Okay. All right. So 2 firms each. I will go through this. I'll make sure I put that on my list of to-dos when you get it from me. Paul, did you have one more?
Yeah, just a thought. This is going back to the prior subject. I deal a lot with these firms for other towns in my capacity as town council for these other communities. I can pretty much assure you top attention if I talk to some of these people, because
If
they
you go
know
in and
that.
say a few words for us, then they will probably listen a little bit more.
Yes, because they know I'm repeat business for other communities.
It's good to have you
And-
on our committee, Paul. It's excellent that you're here with us today.
But the other point I want to make is that the 3 firms that Mary Wilf was talking about, all of them have one really nice thing that they do, which is, as they put it, the best candidate is often the one who's not looking for a job. They will make calls to people who are employed in their position and not really looking, and try to recruit them. I mentioned earlier that one successful engagement of a town administrator arose because he had hired the Collins Institute to help them with a recruitment. And she mentioned to him, go see MRI because they have an opportunity. He wasn't looking for a job, but because Collins Institute called him and said, hey, we're aware of this thing. We think it's a good fit for you. He pursued it and then he ended up taking it. So it's better than a passive approach of just putting an advertisement out there. Hey, we have a job opening. Sometimes picking up the phone, calling somebody,
Right.
and recruiting them will get you a great result.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's
All
important
three of those
too.
firms do that. MRI, Paradigm, and Collins. All three of them do that,
Okay,
and they have the contacts to do that.
right. Yeah, that's good to know. I think if anybody has any questions, and they can't find their answers online, if you want to shoot them over to me, and then I can perhaps throw it out to the committee and let them, answer it for you before you make a decision on your top two.
So just to clarify, Vicky, are we talking about 4 firms? Is that right? Community Paradigm, MRI, Collins, and Jen Thompson's firm, those 4? Is that right? Or is
Or
there
any
other
other
firms?
firm that you've heard of, or, I mean,
Are
I
there
don't
ones that
wanna-
we know of now?
Yeah.
Are there ones that are on your list now that I don't? Those are the only 4 I know of.
yeah, I mean, if somebody knows of another one, I mean, there's a couple other people out there
Okay.
that are,
Did you get my memo with? I had some other firms in there.
yes, you did.
HR
I put
Gov.
them on here. Hold on.
HR Gov came highly recommended.
Yep. GovHR, Rick White and Kevin Pecos.
Yes,
So,
I can speak about any one of those if anybody wants
what
information.
is he? Are these all single person people in small shops?
Not HR Gov.
Okay.
That's a medium size.
Okay.
It's
I
not
didn't see
as
their
big an
name
operation.
anywhere though. Are they new?
No, they've been around for a while.
I didn't see their name on anybody's search.
Well, I can get you some information on it. Get you a webpage.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll put a list of everything that I have on here. I'll just make a list for everybody. And if you have any additions to it, go for it. And, but just send back to before next week. Is everybody clear on that? Okay.
I have a question, which is, since we can't debate or discuss offline, even through serial email, what happens? The people maybe add, when do they add? They send it to you, then nobody knows about it until next week?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
It
So that
seems to
puts
be-
the decision off a little bit, because we can't vote on people we don't know, right?
Yeah, but if you need more places to go for homework, I can give them to you. On literally, you just put their name in and everything pops up. It's
Okay.
not hard to find information about these people.
Mhm.
And
So
I want to say,
we're-
I mean, you can talk to like one other person or something like that. You are allowed to do that. You just can't, like you said, can't make it a chain. You can't be a serial. You
Right.
can't say, go tell so-and-so or anything else like that. You can.
Yeah.
So if something comes up and you really want to pursue it, send it to me, and then maybe I send it to somebody else to talk to you about it if I don't know, the information. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Sure.
Just be careful on how many people you say, like, go talk to this
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
I'd be cautious on that.
Okay.
Like if Mary wanted to call Courtney and say blah blah blah, that'd be fine as long as Courtney doesn't go call me and say Mary told me
Right.
blah 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha.
But how are we
Okay,
going to
then Mary, you
identify?
have to call somebody on your own. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm good.
Smoke signals are allowed. How
Yeah, there you go. I think
how-
that'll work fine.
It
smoke
works for
signals.
picking the Pope, doesn't it? I don't know why we can't use it. How how are we going to identify individuals with the firms though? I'm not, if you want us to identify 2 people for next week, how will I know who the 2 people are at
Well,
MRI?
what I'll do is I'll call the companies and see if I can get names of who they would give us.
Okay.
And if they can make it, fine. If they can't, they're too busy. We just have to do something without talking to them.
Yeah, that's fine. What we have, and if I added Paul's, then I have 7 firms that we've included, which is Community Paradigm, MRI, Collins, Jen Thompson, GovHR, Rick White, and Kevin Pecos. Is that how you say it, Paul Pecos?
Yes, Kevin
Yeah.
Pecos.
So those are the 7 that I came up with from our conversation.
Yeah, that's really all that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If there's
That's
anybody
good.
that we missed, just let us know.
Okay, and in the minutes, those 7 firms are listed without necessarily names attached to
Right,
those, correct?
Right.
Correct.
Got it, thank you.
The other piece I put in the package, I did a little bit of homework on the towns based on the information that Jeff sent me, the DPW analysis of salaries in other towns for DPW positions. So I went through and looked at the town, the population, and the salaries that some I could find, some I couldn't. Avon, I could not find. Carla, I could not find. These are the ones that I could find that were in searches currently, I put down. But I think the ones that are most like us, you'll get a feel for, what the range is for pay. And it's sort of around where we were talking. I mean, Medfield's pretty high.
That's
It's 100.
really
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Can you zoom in a little bit? Because I'm having trouble seeing the screen.
sure. Hold on for a minute.
That's why I use 2 devices. I have my
Yeah.
my 2 Paul Lorentzes.
I didn't know
That
that's
one
why
I
you
can
did
put up
that.
near my
He does that.
face.
He does that all the time.
All
But,
right.
but
I was
Medfield's
wondering why.
Medfield's more than double our population, almost triple.
Now, just is this whoa, I'm applying for a job in Weston.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
I looked that guy up. I went there 3 times and looked at it, and it's town manager, and that's the job.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
I don't-
different though.
Yeah, I don't
Town
doubt that.
manager.
Yeah, that's not exactly comparable, but
No.
nonetheless,
But they didn't have a TA on, right? I know, but
that many levels. That's not a comparable. Not just
right.
title.
No, I understood.
I can help you find some of these salaries. This is as advertised. Advertised doesn't mean what they're making. You
No,
find
but I actually went in and looked at the budgets.
Okay.
So, but if you can find Carlisle, I couldn't find anything in their budgets, and Avon, I couldn't find anything.
You
Sturbridge,
got
it was-
Avon at 114K.
Demographics wise, by the way, Carlisle is almost the mirror image of Sherborn of
It
all
is.
towns in the state.
yeah,
Yeah.
Carlisle,
Population,
and
demographics,
that's,
everything is incredible. Property values, it's extremely comparable.
if
Scary.
you can
And-
find
and
that
it
one
has-
out, that would be great. They're in a
Yeah.
search right now. I think they're hiring this week. It said in their minutes that they're hiring a search firm this week.
Did Goddard leave?
I,
There's a fellow named Goddard. What was his first name? Tim Goddard. Tim Goddard was in there.
yeah, he hasn't been there that long.
No, in that case, no, he must have left before that. Tim Goddard went there back in like 2008 or something like that. So maybe he's gone then.
He's in another one, but he's leaving the town.
Is
Which one is
Carlisle
it?
hiring the person we should be hiring? Is that what we're saying?
You
Because they're
have
out of the gate.
So Tim Goddard was actually David Williams' predecessor as assistant town manager of Framingham. And then he became the town manager, administrator of Carlisle. Trust me, it's a
Didn't
small
some-
world.
And
There's like
somebody
20
else
people,
from
there's like 20 or 30
Framingham just
people out
went.
there.
Somebody from Framingham just went to Stowe, a woman, right? Denise something.
you have Avon twice, by the way,
Yeah.
Vicky. Row 3 or number 3 and number
Oh, okay,
16. You have
Uh,
the salary under number 3, but
Okay.
Vicky, well, first, Bill's had his hand up for a while, but can somebody tell me what our town administrator was making just before he left in Sherborn?
About 160, low 160, something like that. 160, 161, something like that.
yeah.
In our budget, we actually lowered it to 150. We also put a $10,000 stipend in for potential HR director stipend that could go to either the assistant or the regular town administrator.
Yeah, there were a few that had stipends in their package. Bill, you're muted.
I would just like to make a mild objection to assuming that there has to be a correlation between the size of the town and what the town administrator gets paid. We want to hire somebody who's good. And I'd hate to say, gee, we have to, look at a town that's the same size as us and we can't pay more than they do. The town administrator that we hire is going to be doing the same job that they would in Weston. It's just that there are fewer people in the town. They're going to be spending less time at work or have lower challenges. I don't think we should scale the salary necessarily to the size of the town.
Well, there's reasons why we do it, though. There's things like, does this town have a municipal water supply? Does the town have sewage treatment plants? It's not just the population. How many miles of roads are in the town? That
Right.
kind of thing. So there are
Eric?
reasons
Sorry,
related to content.
that makes sense. Eric?
And the job duties. I agree with Bill that perhaps, and like Cambridge makes like 300 or something like that. To some extent, there's a little correlation there, but I'll agree with Bill where maybe for salary wise, we still want the best possible. But how far as experience and job description, there is a correlation. I'm going to say at least 10,000 and under, maybe 15, but at least 10,000 under. It is different than, let's say, 30,000 and above. At the larger communities, you have more of a structure and you have more of a straightforward line management. Sherborn is probably one of the more extreme cases I've seen where we have like elected treasurer, or maybe not anymore, but elected collector. And you have these elected positions that town administrator doesn't have direct authority on, but still has to try to actually have authority on like the subordinates. It's a very strange structure and something very unique to the smaller communities and something you won't see. Whereas if you go to like, let's say Natick or something, then they have direct responsibility for almost every single staff member underneath there. And they also have more of a support structure as well, as far as like, a hierarchy and a classic chain as far as like line management, a pyramid scheme. Our pyramid, model, I should say. And so in that sense, it is kind of apples and oranges. I've seen kind of failures, frankly, where you've seen large go to small and small go to large and stuff like that. You somewhat build a niche of the size of the community. So I agree with Bill on this salary, that we want to be competitive in that. But when it comes time to hiring someone, I personally am going to maybe not look so favorably on someone who, let's say, has a certain position in a town of 30,000. It's just the way it is. It's entirely different experiences. They can come in, they can have a, it's an entirely different model. It really is. Whereas Sherborn, you kind of wear a whole bunch of hats and you have a very odd management structure. That's all
I
I'm
think
saying.
that's important, Eric, for everybody to hear because that will come up. And I think that people that know Sherborn will look at the structure and either like to see it as a challenge and want to do it or not want to do it. I mean, when you look at something like Provincetown, their non-seasonal population is 3,500, but when everybody comes in there, it ends up being 60,000. So
Yeah,
that's a
crazy.
different person for that job.
Yeah.
So I think while the towns don't correlate maybe to how much we want to pay somebody, the towns correlate to, the type of person that would gravitate towards that type of our town, a type of a job. But I think that this salary range, it's pretty even if you look at the kind of the same towns. Not that we correlate with exactly, but that are around here that aren't huge. I did put a couple big ones in there, and you can see the price range is a little bit more. But I think what we had initially talked about, like 120 to 150, was kind of still in the ballpark
Mhm.
with everybody. But and it's not counting out somebody that would be really good. But again, if we had to make some decisions, if it was higher, depends on the person.
Right.
So I just wanted to throw these out there so that you would have some understanding of who's out there and what, because I know that that came up. And the other thing I wanted to just give you was some highlights of some job descriptions. The one thing, and you also got a job description of Sherborn's that was in our that's in our general bylaws. I sent that to you as well.
Mhm.
So it's in page 3 to 7,
Yep.
6, sorry. So that being said, everybody who was around for the last when David was hired, I mean, Diane didn't have anything that she could give me to, like, that was packaged, like, what you see online like this. But this is what's out there. If we have any desire to change this, it has to be done in this town meeting, correct?
Mhm.
And there is a warrant, there's a holder out there for us to be able to do that. So I think that because when the town meeting's coming up, we really need to look at this and make some decisions on how we want to present ourselves. And
Mhm.
if there's something in here that we might want to not put in, but also the select board has their meeting on Thursday, right? And you'll
The
be
10th,
talking about this as well.
March 10th.
Yeah, so it's Thursday.
And the 24th,
No, it's this week, right?
both the 10th and the 24th.
Okay.
The advisory public hearing is the 26th. So we have 2 meetings before the hearing.
Okay. So I'll just throw that out on the table that if we need to change any of this or add to it, it needs to be done quickly. If not, how different is the published publication? I mean, do we just have this and have something? I don't know. I don't think from a personnel standpoint, you can have anything else represent the job. So this is going to be it, correct? George?
Well, I have a fundamental question. That's why at the beginning of the meeting, I said I had something else I wanted to raise, and I think it really pertains to this. And that is that I've been going over the DOR report that was done, I think, 10 years ago. And
Yes.
it makes some very strong recommendations with regard to the town administrator. And I'm not sure they actually use the term strong town administrator,
They
but
do.
it certainly comes across that way. And I just, I'd like to get on, I don't want to spend a lot of time now, certainly, but I'd like to get a little history as to what happened, because it certainly doesn't appear as though that was implemented. And it looks like quite a dramatic shift, but there were strong recommendations, and frankly, a lot of it looked like it made a lot of sense to me. But I just would like to hear from those who know more than I about it, what happened and what the arguments were perhaps for not implementing those recommendations.
Does Mary?
My hand was up for
Oh,
a
sorry.
different
Okay.
comment.
Anybody in the committee want to speak to that, Paul?
So I was there then, and there was very strong pushback from various town officials, and very strong. And the net result was ultimately we moved towards having a government study committee look at this stuff and try to give those reports to that committee and see what they could put together.
Is that the committee that Kitty Sturgis chaired the first time, the governance task force or
Yes,
whatever?
yes, yes.
Is that the same as Corey Lincoln was involved with one, or is that a different?
Yes, yes.
Same one?
Corey
Or
did the most recent one, which was a
Yes.
different one.
Mm-hmm.
Corey did the one that was 3 years ago, I'm going to say off the
It
top of my head.
seems like it was more financial related than TA. It seemed like. Am I wrong, Mary?
They looked at multiple things, but it was not directed at the TA, although it touched on issues that I think remain a challenge for the town that George has raised here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an important thing to be decided. How strong a town administrator are you looking for, and are you going to support?
I know Carol has a question, but
Yes, my question was, in reading that report and also in what Paul has just shared with us regarding going to a government study committee, what was the next step, Paul? Could you finish out the history of it? In other words, was the report put on the shelf and is collecting dust, or did the government study committee move it to another group or another level? Could you just finish the history of it?
So parts of the report have been implemented piecemeal, and it's been over 10 years that it's been worked on. Much of the focus of those reports was on centralizing financial reporting
Mhm.
and management and having them better relate to the rest of the government. It's an issue
Okay.
that was touched on earlier about the town administrator and the finance group were in separate worlds, if you will, because all the financial people were individually elected and therefore accountable only to the people, the voters. Whereas we wanted the town administrator to be more of a manager and to manage the whole operation, particularly the financial part. And there was not any buy-in from the people who were involved in the government at that time. We were finally able to get the treasurer position
Right.
appointed. That literally took 10 years to get to that.
Yes.
But the full recommendation was to combine the positions of treasurer and collector
Mhm.
into one position, and as most communities have it, one appointed position.
Yep.
And we still have a separate independently elected collector that's not combined with the treasurer's office, but there are occupants of these positions, and the sense was to respect the people who hold these offices and came forward and are helping the community.
That's helpful. Thank you.
So at this point, would you say though that George, you were making points about specifically about the town administrator position and that, or who's going to be the management of the town, that position. Are there points in there that we need to really define to make sure that we address them as we're looking at this, the job
I guess
description?
what concerns me is that these are fundamental questions and major questions, and to recognize that town meeting is not far away, and the select board has a lot on their plate, and to make any meaningful decisions is tough. I'm not saying that meaningful meaning anything, I guess, that's then different than what we have in place now.
Right.
It just the decisions surrounding the description, the level of independence of a new town administrator is going to dictate the level of abilities, I think, of the person we hire,
Mhm.
and what their interest is going to be. It seems to me that we've been lacking. That's my impression. I mean, we've been lacking in recent history, certainly, and perhaps even for a longer time than that, with having the level of capable town administrator and being able to help manage this town.
Mhm.
I think the burden has been too much, frankly, on the select board. With a lot of there's a lot of what the select board's been dealing with that I think should be not delegated. It should be part of a job description of a TA.
I'm just gonna,
I'll agree with that.
There are placeholders for 2 articles in the warrant, one for the TA description and one for the finance director description. And, with what George brought up, it may be time to look at both of those and the reporting structure of it. I had my hand up for something else, which was just to ask the selectmen when they're talking on the 10th and the 24th. One of the things that I noticed that's written into the job description is that the TA will receive a 3-year contract. And I'm wondering if that language could be potentially removed with no, no limit on the contract, so
So
just
yes,
something to think about.
no, we're reviewing that. We're going to see it on Thursday. If Diane's listening, you can back me up here. We're going to see it on Thursday. And to be honest, Mary, that is one of the edits that actually is a consideration. So yeah, good insight there. And that's actually be up for discussion on Thursday. That exact line that you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
And as far as the other is concerned, this would be the time if you hire somebody with they look at the bylaws, presumably. If I'm a town administrator candidate, I'm going to look at your bylaws. And if they come in with one expectation and find out that it's different, then, if we're going to make a change, now's the time to do it, I think.
There are not just what you mentioned, but there are other edits that we are considering to the bylaws.
Good.
And if anything, we're basically making it less restrictive, to be honest with you. Like it'll be my preference. I only speak to my personal preference that we actually will not limit ourselves to 3 years. You can't exceed 3 years without town meeting approval. So simply leave it up to the discretion of the board, something like that. I don't know why I would actually put in a bylaw the 3 years. And I fully agree.
That seems odd to me.
Yep, fully agree with you. That's a mistake.
Well, that said is, sorry, Paul. That said is it best for us to wait and listen to the discussion on Thursday, and then, before that we can make our points that I have up here on my screen, the piece that's in the DOR report, and you all got that last week. Should we make notes and bring it up during that discussion?
Yeah, I would encourage anyone to actually enter that discussion. Absolutely, to attend on Thursday. I don't think it'll hold off any of like our meetings here, what we have. I mean, I think if I'm just to speculate on my stuff, it might be some things about the job description from HR director, IT director, and limits of contracts and stuff like that. I don't think we're looking at an overhaul on this, but I could be wrong. I welcome a lively discussion about this.
So if I could, Vicky,
Paul? Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we should delay or have the process of continually improving the town administrator's position in the town, which is what we've been working on for many years. That is really an independent project. We need to go forward with hiring a town administrator. And
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that.
If you take the position that, gee, we have to go through town meeting isn't until the end of April. If we have to make major changes, I mean, there's a statute that allows us to have a real finance director, which means the finance director appoints the board of assessors, appoints the treasurer. There's a whole statute that the general court offers to communities that creates a real finance director. We've never adopted that. But we could get lost in that rabbit hole about whether or not we should have a real finance director. And that might require a ballot question, all kinds of things.
Right.
That we could go down that road. And the next thing you know, we're in next year and we haven't even begun to nail down town
I
administrator.
don't disagree. We need to put things into perspective, but I think what I was getting at, what a few other people were getting at, is not necessarily overhauling it with regards to the finance director or HR component, but really looking at the relationship between the town administrator and the select board, and how much are we going to hire somebody that's going to be a CEO type, or are we going to hire somebody that's going to be an assistant CEO type? I mean, I think that the thing that keeps coming back to me, and I think other people have said, is are we looking for a strong TA, and what's the definition of that? And I don't think it gets into the particulars of HR and finance. I think that's a huge component, but that's not something that we need to, like you said, we need to get into, because you guys are going to talk about that on this week and next week, and where that goes, we don't know, but I think we need to have clear in our heads that whoever we're looking at, and that person has to have clear in their head that they are going to be running this like a CEO, and the CEO reports to a board, but it doesn't be told, there's a fine line between managing a CEO and managing a board. So we have to pick somebody, that's going to be a strong TA. What's that definition? And I think if we're all in the same perspective, am I right or wrong, George? Is that kind of where you were going with this?
Yeah, I think that's a good synopsis.
Okay. Mary?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would see the select board as the CEO, and I would see the town administrator as the COO, Chief Operating Officer. That's
Yeah,
all.
That's the law. The
And either
chief
way that
elect-
it works, you have to have some type of understanding of who's doing what and
Yes.
what each group is going to allow the other one to do. So
Right.
I think that's really where our focus is. And we're going to stay clear of all the other stuff that you had described, Paul, correctly. We're going to stay clear of that at this point.
Yes.
So I think when you look at the job description, when you look at the DOR report, when you look at other people's job descriptions, all I'm saying is keep in mind some things that may not be in the job description that should be, or that would relate to something describing what their position is going to be looked at as. And if there's something that we need to just keep in the back of our minds as we look at people, you can make that as a note as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think we should focus on getting the best town administrator we can find.
But I
And-
think, I think in anything, expectations is huge. In any relationship, expectations needs to be defined up front. And that has to be something that we are clear with when we talk to people. And I guess that's what I was getting at.
I guess I would add on to that, when we come up with 6 or 7 questions to ask them, I think those questions should be attempt to draw that out of them.
Yes,
What's their leadership style? And
agreed,
so
agreed.
it'll reinforce that,
Those are
which
great.
may not come across in the resume type.
No, exactly. Okay, I think at this point, we've covered everything in the agenda. I just have to try to pull that up again. Are there
Our
any
next
other?
meeting, the
Go ahead.
14th.
The next meeting is next Monday, correct? Okay.
Beware the Ides of March, yes.
Oh, yeah, right. For a lot of people. Well, if there's not anything else, I just had one more thing I wanted to show everyone. Hold on. It's not a lot.
You don't have any friends named Brutus, Jeff, do you? Mhm.
Okay, I just make a comment, I think.
Sure.
And that is that I think Paul makes a very good point that we don't want to try to, at this point in time, try to change the world. We don't need, as Paul said, to go down a rabbit hole. I think what we want to do is make the town administrator job a strong town administrator to the extent possible, without ending up, winding up with the kinds of concerns that Paul raises. Now, how we do that is something we've got to figure out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I think it's an opportunity for us to get a good, strong person in that position without upsetting the apple cart, so to speak.
Agreed.
If I could just respond to that. The job description that we have now and the bylaw that we have now is an effort to do just that, to go as far as we can. If you try to change to make it stronger, really the next step is what's called a town manager. And that requires a special act of the legislature or a charter provision.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that.
If you put that off the table, then what we have is pretty damn close to the maximum that you can achieve. There are some tweaks that we can talk about, but fundamentally, there's a lot of responsibility in this existing job description and existing bylaw for the town administrator. And to some extent, people make of their jobs what they want to make out of it. And if somebody wants to be a town administrator, the ingredients are there. If somebody wants to be laid back and not be a strong town administrator, the ingredients are there for that. There is an opportunity here for a good fit with the town, with somebody who will be creative, provide leadership, help the town deal with the problems that we have to deal with. There is that. We hope we will get there, but the tools are there. What I'm saying, I don't think we need to try and reinvent the wheel here.
I don't think that we need to reinvent the wheel, but I think it's important for everybody to understand what the job description we have in hand says and maybe what it's not saying. Does that mean we have to change it right now? No, but I think if there's things that are in here that are not being said, if you're looking at other descriptions, if you're looking at the world out there and you think that there's other things that we need to make a point of, they may or may not be big enough for us to put in here as a change. But as Jeff said, they could be good points for us to have to make as part of our list of questions to put in there, and to make sure that we have them. So all I'm asking you is to take a look at everything so that when we review it, we have a good perspective. Yes, we agree with what's in the bylaw, but what we'd like to do when we talk to people is have this, and this brought out to make sure that person, we know that person can do this, or we know that person wants to do this. Eric, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, just, I mean, because we're kind of like still getting ahead of ourselves and talking in circles a little bit. Just want go to the select board meeting. We'll
Yes.
Modify the bylaws needed. And I think we should
Yes.
hire a consultant to pull together a job description based on the bylaw rather than
Yes.
just talking about like what questions we're going to ask 20 weeks from now.
No. But there was a question. I mean, I was
I don't mean,
just trying to define what people were talking about. So I
it's no
don't,
criticism on you, Vicky. I just wanted to rein in. Everyone was just
No,
kind
I
of
agree.
really
Yeah.
getting ahead of ourselves.
No, we are. But I think that we need to keep that in mind when we're looking at everything. What's next is this, and I'll send this out so that you have it. Review information in the packet and online for consultants and make a list of the top two. The job description, read over ours, read over the attached ones, if there's any additions or other things we want. And I have that professional traits and responsibilities chart I'd like you all to fill out. If we can attend the meeting on the 10th, we find out what is going to transpire then. And the next meeting to review and make selection of the consultant, have a job outline, changes or additions for discussions, and hand in the professional traits and responsibility chart so that I can put that together. And then that would be it for next meeting. If there's anything else that comes up, we can go through it. But I think at this point, if anybody else has anything to bring up, we've been long enough going through this. Anybody
move
else
to
want to?
adjourn.
Sorry, Paul.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, good. Okay.
That's what you seem to be inviting, so
Yes. Thank you.
picking that up.
Very good. Paul motions to adjourn. Was that second?
Seconded.
George seconds. Okay, I will take a vote. Did I do that right? I keep getting this one. Eric, how do you vote?
Yes.
To end the meeting now?
Get to adjourn.
To adjourn. Courtney?
Aye.
George?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes, but let me say, we have to identify the seconder for the minutes, because when we were working on the minutes.
Yeah,
we
the
didn't
second
know-
was George. Yep.
Seconder was George. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
on the
you.
vote.
Jeff?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Vicky? Aye. It's a unanimous aye.
Mary is I also.
Mary, sorry, Mary. Did I forget you? I'm looking
Okay.
right at you. How did I forget
That's
you?
okay.
Paul gets 2 votes because he's twice on the screen.
Oh, one in Paul too. All right, thank you all. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
it. And send me anything that you need to have, or let me know if you need to have anything else clarified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Yeah,
night.
I'm going to try to jump on library.